You know, for us in the New Brunswick media that covered the rise of the Core Party, its basically ascension to opposition and his ultimate destruction by the 1990s, early 2000s, the biggest concern we had was the possibility of a former Core rising in the PC Party to become Premier. Now, this was mostly in the Acadian and Francophone press because we saw the machinations that the Core was doing, anti-bilingualism, anti-French, basically our way of the highway sort of mentality. Now, when Blaine Higgs rose in the all-word government to be a minister and eventually won the PC leadership and then won a second term as Premier, I figured, hey, this is where it's going to show. Now, for a lot of people that maybe don't know this, Blaine Higgs is one of the architects of the original Core Party in New Brunswick. Core was a concept throughout Canada that was adopted by disgruntled Conservatives after Premier Richard Hatfield lost that 58-0 election in 87, and basically it replaced the PC Party. Now, what Blaine Higgs' big problem is, he doesn't listen. He's got that CUPE strike going on. Children are staying home in New Brunswick up until probably next week. He's dropped the Aboriginal file. He's dropped several files regarding infrastructure, regarding improvements in the north, overall, relationships with other provinces regarding development. He has a bad relationship with the federal government, and a lot of people felt he's dropped the COVID file by reopening New Brunswick too soon, where he told the people if you reach a certain level of vaccination, we're going to open it up, and he went back on his promise and basically opened up New Brunswick. He can't control, people getting sick or whatever, but he's not a leader. If you talk to somebody up in Campbellton who just lost somebody to COVID, you talk to a worker in St. John that believes in the strength of unions, he's trying to weaken unions. You talk to an Aboriginal chief in New Brunswick, I'm not going to say which ones, but there's a lot of Aboriginal leaders in New Brunswick cannot work with Blaine Higgs. What do you say? To be a leader of New Brunswick, you have to, even if the people that don't vote for you, you have to be their leader. Blaine Higgs is no leader. Blaine Higgs has no idea what he's doing. And this is coming from a journalist who's covered every Premier of New Brunswick since Richard Hatfield and seen the good and the bad. Brian Gallant dropped the ball. Sean Graham dropped the ball at times. Even Bernard Lord dropped the ball, but he were not as bad as Blaine Higgs. He has no concept how to run New Brunswick. He's not a red Tory. He's your typical, PC leader that has no indication of what the whole province was. Now, recently, he didn't want an Aboriginal Memorial Day for New Brunswick. Why would he make a decision like that unless it's based in his means to not reach out to people that he feels are in the minority? He's gone back on contracts. He's held money back from Aboriginal communities. He's did all kind of foolishness to basically get his own way. The way he's treated CUPE in recent weeks and the way he's talking like he's still in the 1980s or 1990s. You got to adapt in 2021. He's too old. He's too southern central New Brunswick, not even though I have some connection with St. John. I call on the Premier before he makes any more mistakes, either to quit or to call another election. He's not going to call another election. He may not quit, but give someone who can do the job as more of a moderate. New Brunswick always needed a moderate, okay? David Allward, as Premier of New Brunswick, was a moderate. Everybody didn't agree with what he did, but at least he listened to people on occasion. He got along with people if need be. But New Brunswick right now is being run by a province with no leadership. There's nobody in cabinet that's a strong voice like the old Hatfield cabinet of the 70s and 80s, even the strong cabinets that came under Bernard Lord. There was a movement in early 2021 by the Francophone side to ask Higgs to quit, like the Francophone side. They have no representation in the North. So where does that leave us? So it's very fluid situation, just like the Chicago sex scandal. No comparison, of course, but it's very fluid. By next week, if Higgs gets the pressure on, will he quit? I encourage anybody listening to this podcast to just basically post on their Facebook or tell their friends Higgs should quit. He may not quit, but what if he does? You have to get rid of him. if the Conservative won the government, that's fine. Put somebody else in charge. There's probably somebody who could do a much better job than him right now. Have an interim leader, then have a convention that will elect the premier. We've done that in Newfoundland in the past. But Blaine Higgs does not represent the all of New Brunswick. He represents southwest New Brunswick and part of the St. John region. He never represented anybody that wanted to see him in. Are you trying to roll back New Brunswick to the 1970s and 80s? Just because 75-year-old women who go to church voted for him, does that make him premier? Maybe next election more people... Why don't we make a New Brunswick First Party, a coalition of the best ideas of all the party, and let that group run the party? And it's another thing too, we need a political party in New Brunswick that represents all people, not just the Irvings, not just corporate interests, just not ego. Because Blaine Higgs, my friend, you don't get my vote, and hopefully you'll be gone sooner or later. I don't wish bad on you, but I wish you gone. Say bye-bye, give us a break, go into retirement, get your every pension, get your provincial pension, just get lost and let somebody who can run this province run this province. Have a good day, stay safe.